I'm waiting for someone to do the intro, but this is the intro. It's that comic thing down the street. And I'm Mike.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Vincent. And I have some quick haul stuff. Let me focus all the attention on me on this camera. So I had a birthday pass, so I picked up. Well, I was given / picked up some things.
How old are you now?
24 years old.
Wow. How does it feel that a quarter of your life is now over?
Yeah, that's pretty generous, honestly.
I feel like Mike talking and not in frame is like the peanut gallery kind of talking. Oh, now he is.
Oh, there it
More.
is.
So I got.
It's not even 3 seconds.
I got X-Men Grand Design, just without a subtitle. So this is the first volume by Ed Piskor. It's got nice like spot gloss on Cyclops' laser beam. There was supposed to be an extra guy there with an assault rifle, but Marvel said no, you can't do that. It's probably in the back. I don't know. But I'm excited to read this. I still don't like fully understand the format complications of this because the individual issues are like issue size. I'm pretty certain. And then there's this, but I feel like there might be a trade paperback size version. I don't really know, but this is cool. Honestly, I might just not read this until I get the other 2 volumes and then just read the entire thing. And I guess forgot that the all of these for the collections, Piskor recolored certain original issues of X-Men. So with this one, he recolored X-Men #1. The next book, it's probably giant size. I'm not sure. And then the third book, it's the Captain America, Wolverine, Black Widow issue. And then I got a set of Doctor Strange books, the 3 oversized hardcovers, the Jason Aaron run, his 20 issues plus some change in 2 hardcovers, and then the Donny Cates run, which includes Damnation. No tie-ins or anything though, besides Doctor Strange. So that's exciting. There is actually a gap between them. Cates' run ends at 20, and then, well, Aaron's run ends at 20, and then Cates' run starts with 381. There's not a 300 issue gap, but there's stupid renumbering, but there were several like Secret Empire tie-ins or something. And then I got Daredevil by Ed Brubaker, Complete Collection Volume 2, which somehow this entire time I have not had this book.
Let's say, how did you not know?
I don't know. I have 1 and 3. I own a lot of other Daredevil stuff. I think, honestly, I don't know. I may have lost it at some point or something. I don't know what happened, but now I officially have it again, possibly. I have Wolverine Old Man Logan. I used to have the Mark Miller Wolverine Omnibus, which included this and Enemy of the State, but I sold that. So now I have this story again, which I don't really even like. And then I got 2 Epic collections. I have Defenders, the New Defenders, but since they use the New Defenders logo for the cover of this book as well, it looks like it's called The New Defenders, The New Defenders. Kind of funny. This is a really thick one in terms of Epic collections. And I got Avengers, Fear the Reaper. This is like deep into, it's 92 to 93. This is deep into the Bob Harris, Steve Epstein era.
So like
good or bad.
Bad era?
Pretty much, yeah. And a lot of this book, like some of this, what is it called? There's some like annual crossover which involves Kang. And I'm pretty sure that story is just like unreadable garbage. It's called what?
Does that come after the Obsession collection, Epic collection?
So there's Obsession collection, and then Galactic Storm, and then this.
Oh, okay.
Citizen Kang is the annual crossover I was thinking of. So some cool books. I'll probably, we'll have other Hall stuff in not the next episode, but the next one, because all of us will be going to Keystone Comic Con.
We'll be assembling for the final time for a while, at least.
Yep.
Yeah, to be determined. Does anyone else have any quick haul stuff or not quick?
I don't have it with
Do
me.
not. I mean, I'm saving my money for next weekend.
Same. So,
Okay, cool. What is our retro book?
Retro book, as we ended the show last week, was Huntress #1 from. Is this from '89?
Yeah.
Joey Cavallari is the writer, and Joe Staten is the penciler on this. We got Patterson and Giordano on inks. The inking on this issue is a little Sienkiewicz like to me, with the shadow work. But the name of this issue is Code of Silence, and the whole function of the issue really is introducing us to this new Huntress, which I don't know if this is her first appearance, but if I'm right, the original Huntress was Batman and Catwoman's daughter, correct?
All right. So the original Huntress, yes, is Helena Wayne,
Right.
daughter of Batman and Catwoman on Earth 2. And that Huntress was co-created by Joe Staten, and he drew her solo ongoing feature, which was for a long time a Wonder Woman backup. And this is her first post-crisis appearance. And I think there was some kind of like weird deal where they're like, okay, we're changing the continuity of this character. And in fact, Huntress, the Earth 2 Huntress, has a moment, I believe, with Earth 2 Robin in Crisis. It's like a pretty somber moment where they kind of realize, like, hey, we're not going to exist anymore. Like, our Earth doesn't exist, etc. And so she basically got wiped out of existence with the merging of the Earths. And there was some kind of like deal where it's like, yeah, we're going to still use this character, but totally change it. But Joe Staten, you still get to draw her. And
Okay.
yeah, you can go ahead.
The suit, we get a good look of it on the cover. It's not quite the full body suit that I'm accustomed to knowing Helena Bertinelli in, because it's Helena Bertinelli now. The cape's there, the mask is there, and the purple suit's there, but it doesn't have like the legs to it yet. It's more of just a unitard. So she's still got exposed arms and exposed legs, and she's got like a kind of like a pouch thing on her thigh. But it's almost to the one like we've been seeing in No Man's Land, just without like because I think that costume would get to be like purple on purple, like dark purple on the base of like the body, and then light purple on the arms and legs, and then I think black boots and black gloves. Or maybe I have it reversed. And it's the gloves are purple and the appendages are black. Either way, the whole issue is Huntress stops a mugging happening, and I don't even remember if they come out and say that she's in Gotham. I don't think they do. And she asks the woman who she saves what her name is, and she has Helena, and she's like, "Oh, I knew something like that." And we basically just get Helena Bertinelli's origin, which is more or less the same if you know it. She was a mob boss's daughter, and a hit was placed on her family, and she watched her family die, and then she kind of takes up on getting vengeance. She trains with the bodyguard that was meant to protect her, and she then takes up becoming the Huntress and fighting bad guys that way. That's the whole issue. I thought the art was fine. It's nothing to write home about. The biggest thing for me is I always thought Helena Bertinelli watches her family get killed when she's little. She instead they get killed when she's like home from a semester of college. So she's at least like I think at like 17, 18 when that happens. So that was the biggest thing that I noticed in terms of that. Other than that, yeah, it's Helena Bertinelli, and it's her first appearance. Like Vince said, I don't think anything here was amazing. I thought it was fine to say. I don't. There was nothing to very memorable here other than it being her first appearance. But I'll open up to you guys.
I liked the art a lot, actually. You referenced this. I'm not really sure what parts are the inker, possibly, and what parts are the colorist, Nancy Houlihan. But especially early on, before we get into the flashbacks, there's a lot of like shading kind of stuff just in the backgrounds and everything. It looks pretty nice. The book is very like mobby. I don't know how to describe it. Like it's very like here's Italian mobsters. But like it's also not like totally caricature stupid, but it also really leans into all the tropes. Obviously, Joey Cavalieri has to be Italian himself, and yeah, and so then otherwise, I'll quickly say this is not in Gotham. This series, it seems that most of it is set in Manhattan, in New York, and so this series was 19 issues long, all by the same creative team, and basically at the same time as the second issue, she starts intermittently appearing in the Justice League books, in like the JLI era books, and she doesn't actually get drawn into the Batman books until 1992, which is a little bit before Nightfall.
Okay.
And then obviously we've seen her a bunch in No Man's Land, which is several years later, and she's fully integrated as a Batman character. I enjoyed it. Like you said, nothing blew me away. Like Joey Cavalieri, I mean, I haven't read all his work or anything, but I wouldn't necessarily expect something amazing from him. But it was pretty competent. He handles the mob stuff, not too cringy. Joe Satan, I actually really like the art, and it was kind of all right.
Yeah, it's very kind of average DC book.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what you guys said. Possibly considering like revisiting the character at some point. I don't know if there's any other collections, like you said, that she's in Justice League and stuff like that. But the one thing I did like in the beginning of this issue was how like the whole mugging was like pretty much just like a silent like few pages. I thought that was kind of cool. But other than that, though, nothing really to write home about.
With that concludes our retro book for this week. Stay tuned at the end of the show for what Vince tells us we're reading next week. Hopefully it's something good. But we're going to go and hit up indie books right now. And we're going to start with Black Hammer Justice League number 2 by Jeff Lemire and Michael Walsh. So when we read this last time, I had read absolutely no Black Hammer at all. And I was like, wow, Black Hammer seems really cool. So, and like the 3 weeks between issues we've had, I've read all of Black Hammer. So I fully know who everyone is now. And I can't stress more, love the series. It's really, really good. But we know that the Justice League characters, well, mainly the Trinity of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman have been trapped on the farm, while the Black Hammer characters have been all transported to the DC universe. And now they've now been stuck. So the Justice League characters have been stuck on the farm for 10 years. So we see Batman kind of getting in trouble with the sheriff and the Black Hammer universe, kind of like how Abraham Slam would. And he's trying to like go out on patrols at night, and he's running into problems there. Meanwhile, the Black Hammer characters are, they get transported to Metropolis and they're fighting Starro, and they're all kind of craziness is going on there, where they eventually meet up with the rest of the Justice League and Martian Manhunter, Hawkgirl, and Aquaman. So you get some fun moments in there, like Golden Gale's trying to hit on Aquaman because she thinks he's attractive, and Aquaman wants nothing to do with it because Golden Gale obviously is in the body of a 9-year-old girl, because the way her powers work are she's a Shazam essentially, but she doesn't get older. She stays the same age that she is for when she got her powers. So she's like a 50-year-old woman trapped in a 9-year-old's body. And then we get the barber alien saying that Martians. Everyone knows that Martians are red, not green. When talking to Martian Manhunter was pretty funny. And then the rest of the issue is dealing with Colonel Weird, with John Stewart and the Green Lantern Corps. There's some really fun moment where Colonel Weird is thrown into Bizarro World, and that's really fun. Where we get to see Bizarro versions of the Black Hammer characters, and Bizarro even gets confused, but they get transported to the Parazone as they're trying to figure out everything. There's some fun moments with Wonder Woman and Cyborg, who's still was also transported to the farm with them, as he's kind of like now trapped to just a singular battery, so to kind of power himself. And the big reveal at the end of this is that the Flash is the one that died trying to go outside the perimeter of the farm in the Black Hammer universe. So Barry Allen's dead in this story. So I'm wondering how they're gonna want it all. So really enjoyed this. Michael Walsh's art is top notch, like we said last time, and this does like fit kind of fun somewhere in the middle of the 10 years the Black Hammer characters are trapped on the farm. So it really is. You can kind of pick this up and read it anywhere. I'd say probably after finishing like maybe the first 6 issues of the first series. So I really enjoy this a lot. And then I guess moving forward, I have the second book, Ghosted in L.A. #2 by Cinna Grace and Siobhan Keenan. This was a really fun issue. I know me and Ginger Dan talked about this the first issue when this came out, and we both were positive on it, and we're sticking with the second issue. In this one, we see our main character go on a date with a total asshole, and she leads them back to the mansion, and the ghosts have to like scare him off. And we find out more personalities from all the ghost characters, and kind of how like they all died at different times. So like one person's like fully in the 90s, another like some people are like fully in the 1940s kind of lifestyles. Which I think a lot of the characters in this are pretty fun. But in the middle of like on this date, our main character calls her ex-boyfriend to kind of come and rescue her, but before the ghosts scared the guy off. So the ex-boyfriend is now at the gates of the mansion with all the ghosts. So we'll see how this all plays out in the next one. This is still a really fun book, and I still really like the end pages, where Cinna Grace puts in like places he likes around LA. This issue centered around kind of like the LA night scene with like indie pop, like indie bands, and he gives a spotlight to 4 of his favorite bands to go see in LA that he's gone to see in LA, where he lives, and gives a shout out to them. So the first issue was comic book stores. This time it's bands. So I really like that kind of connection with the audience at the end of the book.
What are the bands?
Are
they
Feels,
really small?
Avery, LA Witch, and Sancha.
Okay, never heard of any of them.
Yeah, I've never heard of any of them, but I might remember to go check out some of the music, like on Spotify or something.
I might go back and look at the comic stores he talks about. So next, our last indie book of this week, Once and Future #1 from Boom Studios. This is Kieran Gillen and Dan Mora. This was a pretty hyped up book because Boom put some kind of marketing gimmicks, or actually lack thereof, behind it. They're basically like not a ton of variant covers, fully returnable, stuff like that. And as far as I can tell, it's sold pretty well for them. So it was, they did it properly. Dan Mora worked with Grant Morrison on the Klaus books, and then launched Buffy, and now he's pulled over here, I guess. And so the story here, open with some guy finding some artifacts at the bottom of a lake in England, and a woman shows up with some suits and kills him to take a scabbard. And then we get introduced to our main character. He's out on a date, and he spills wine all over his date's dress. And he's a klutz, but he's an academic. He's a professor or something like that. And he also plays rugby. and he's a ginger. And then he gets a call from his grandmother, who has escaped the old folks' home. And this follows a sequence where a bunch of old people are arguing to switch off the news so they can watch the Great British Bake Off. I think that's what the show's called. And the grandmother's like, "You change the channel, I'll like cut off your fingers." That's the implication. And so his grandmother runs away from the old folks' home, so he has to abandon his date and try and figure out what she's up to. And he finds her opening a bunker filled with guns. She reveals she used to hunt vampires, and then a giant monster, which it's got like a griffin kind of body, a snake head and neck, and then it has like this weird stomach thing, which almost looks like cow udders, but it's later explained that it's like a stomach full of live dogs. It's really weird, but it's a big monster, shows up, chases the guy around, then runs away, and she's like, "Hey, you need to drive me somewhere, blah blah, I gotta do some shit." And he's like, "No, you can't do that." And so she pulls a gun on him, and he's like, "You're not gonna shoot me, I'm your grandson." And she pulls the trigger, and she means to just like very closely miss his cheek or something, which of course that's ridiculous in the first place. But she's an old woman, so she's a little rough, and so she like shoots off part of his ear, which is kind of screwed up. And then they're driving, and we learn that the scabbard is the scabbard for Excalibur, and it's basically a race to get to King Arthur's tomb, because in the folklore, King Arthur will return during Britain's like dark days or last days. But based on that ambiguous folklore, it's not clear if the dark days come when he returns, if he is the dark days, if he fights against the dark days, whatever. So this old like crazy assassin, occult fighting grandma, and her klutzy ginger academic grandson are gonna go try and find Excalibur before these suits do. The art was really good. The main character looks kind of cool. He's like a ginger guy with a goatee and everything. It's clearly like,
we know that guy.
yeah. I was actually I think Ginger Dan would really like this book.
Because he's ginger?
For representation reasons and otherwise. I know he's kind of into, we know that he's a big fan of Camelot 3000 and other stuff like that. I really enjoyed this book. The art by Dan Moore is good.
Yeah, I wish he was.
Yeah, all around, I would recommend this. It was enjoyable. I'm gonna keep reading it.
All right. This takes us to DC, correct?
Yes.
So with Batman and the Outsiders, number 4, still Brian Hill and Dexter Soy. I'm going to come out right and say it. I don't love this book. Like, I thought it had a fine first issue, and it's kind of dwindled every issue since then. Vince changed the banner. There you go. And because I'm tired of reading it, looking at myself, seeing it saying once in future on it. Sophia is being trained by Ra's al Ghul, and at the end of this becomes Babylon, which is like another arbitrary name to a Ra's al Ghul henchman. So now he has Ishmael and he has Babylon. Great. The rest of this is all about like the team still trying to work out their inner problems with each other, but nothing has gone anywhere. Like, I feel like issue 1 compared to issue 4 this, it's more the same. Like, Black Lightning gets summoned by Batman, and he goes and talks to Batman, and he's like, "I don't really want to do this." And Batman's like, "Yeah, you'll do it anyway." And then they kind of just like, it's just like banter that goes nowhere at the end of this. It's a book that's kind of crawled to a absolute standstill where it's just not very interesting and not doing enough to really set itself aside from the other Batman books that are on the shelf right now. Like, I think Batman by King is firing on all cylinders heading into its kind of last chapter, and we've all been very positive on Tomasi's run of Detective Comics. The thing that should be really coming out and saying why I should read this is seeing characters like Cassie and Duke and Black Lightning, but nothing happens enough in this book to really keep me interested at all. It's just people talking on rooftops, um, and then like maybe they do a training session while Ra's al Ghul's doing whatever he's doing out in Condium. So and that's the book. Like, if their mission was to save this girl from Ra's al Ghul, she's like completely indoctrinated by the end of this issue. So they failed. Like, they're done. In terms of did they pass their mission? I and it's I don't want to say like I don't want to drop the book because I like Brian Hill because I'm enjoying his stuff on Angel, but I'm not going to continue with this. It's very very dull and boring. But this book is, if it's good for one thing, it's good to give us like one really cool Dexter Soy splash page per issue. I'll say that, but sadly, not staying with it.
That's hilarious. I still laugh at talking on rooftop. That's literally how this like. I understand like in modern comics now these days, like you can't have a whole issue of just like a giant fight, but like when the whole issue is just talking and talking and talking, it's like come on, like that's literally what this whole series has felt like to me. Doesn't really feel like there's a lot of stuff going on.
No, I completely agree. It's crawled to a standstill.
Yeah, sucks.
Let's actually do detective first. I mean next.
Well,
That
yeah,
makes
that's what I thought we were
Okay.
doing.
Yeah, I did not. So let's go with that.
All right. So I read Detective Comics. Ooh, full screen here. Better not screw up. Detective Comics Volume 1, number 1009, titled Survivor. As Mike alluded to, written by Peter J. Tomasi, drawn by Christian Deuce. Is that how you say
Yeah.
his name? Okay.
Yes.
So pretty much this story is just Batman coming back from a mission, beating up some thugs, goes to sleep at 6:05, and Alfred comes in and wakes him up at 6:07. The one thing I do want to mention with this Detective Comics, and I don't know if it's just been like this issue that I've read, but I feel like a lot of the stories are a little bit more lighthearted with like the Batman character and Alfred. I feel like Tom King's is like Batman stuff is a little bit more serious, but I guess it's the main series, so the tone is a little bit different. Anyway, we cut to a meeting with Deadshot and this guy that's kind of giving him information on a thumb drive, because that's always how they give information now these days. And Deadshot kills him because he's like, that's my mission. And then we cut to Gotham talking about this environmental project in Singapore. Wayne's like, I'll fund it. Let's all get on a plane together and we'll fly to Singapore to get this going. And as they're all on the plane, obviously Deadshot hijacks the plane. He's the co-pilot, and he takes everybody hostage. And we get this large fight. Lightning actually strikes the plane, and it goes down. So everyone gets thrown around. All these CEOs and chair people inside of the plane, and we end with the plane crashing in some island. So that really has piqued my interest to go back and read the next issue that comes out, obviously next month, I guess, or in 2 weeks. I'm not sure if this is
I
bi-weekly.
think this is double shipping.
What'd you say?
I'm pretty sure this double ships.
Okay. Well, yeah, this is just a really great issue. I mean, I'm really excited to read. I have some like Batman Tomasi stuff like in my collection, so I'm really excited to go back and read some of that stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much what this issue was. I really liked it. It moved really fast. And like what I like about this stuff is that you can pick this up. Like I've not read anything before this. You can pick this up like as someone who just likes Batman in general and can understand and read this issue and jump in and enjoy it. Like that's what I love so much about it. So yeah, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. This is very evergreen to me in terms of, yeah, you can definitely pick this up no matter and no matter the current state of like what the main book is. and just kind of read it and enjoy it. I've been reading a lot of late 80s, early 90s Batman. So like Alan Grant and Brayfogle, their teamwork on Detective and then later Batman. And then Jim Starlin's runs. And I think Tomasi might be a big fan of that era because to me, this whole run's very much felt like that, where the arcs are short, they move fast, but they're packed full of action and fun moments. The banter between Bruce and Alfred's really really good, and we see like, and even like there's been times with Robin in here too. Like we see team ups with Robin. I hope to see more allies kind of brought in for like things in the future. Christian Duce's art here I really liked. I thought his opening splash page, kind of with Batman standing on the gargoyles, was really really good. It was fun to see Ace again, because that's Tom King brought Ace the Bat Hound back in the first annual, so it's fun to just see Tomasi understands like the whole cast of characters completely. The only takeaway here that I didn't like from it is I thought there was just something off for the way Bruce talks in the boardroom meeting and to like Lucius himself. He's kind of coming off a little condescending to Lucius Fox to me, which I think was just a tad bit out of character. I think I knew what he was trying to go for, where he's playing up kind of like the fake Bruce Wayne persona of being this eccentric kind of I don't give a shit CEO, kind of like in the manner that like Bale has in the Nolan films a little bit.
That's kind of the vibe I got.
But like even like the moment where he's talking to Lucius 101, it was kind of like patronizing and condescending a little bit to me. I like the inclusion of Deadshot just because I always like seeing Batman versus Deadshot stories, but I will say this, I hate Deadshot's costume. There was nothing wrong with the original, and I hate the mask on this one so much. And then Vince and I were talking about this last week, but about DC Comics covers that have nothing to do with the issue. Mr. Freeze is like battling Batman on the cover of this, but he's the Dark Gifts epilogue at the end of this that's going to be teased for something down the line. So it's just funny to see that as the cover. But yeah, still enjoying Detective Comics. It's still all positives pretty much across the board for me on this book.
Did you get the George Clooney reference in there?
I did. I liked it.
That was hilarious.
Bruce Wayne got acting lessons from George Clooney.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked that. You guys basically covered all the major notes I had. It was cool seeing Ace. Alfred has a few really good lines. He says, "I have it on good authority that Batman does not kill." Likewise, the Deadshot costume is so over-designed and annoying. That's a new 52 thing. And not only is the cover totally deceiving, but then the actual like 2-page Mr. Freeze epilogue, it literally doesn't mean or do anything whatsoever. It's just like Mr. Freeze staring at Nora.
Yeah.
It's 2 full pages and nothing happens. There's no character moment. Nothing advances. It's literally just 2 pages of Mr. Freeze nothingness to remind us that that plot is going to come up.
Yeah. I will say though, very smart on Tomasi with the 2 minutes of sleep for Batman. Morrison did that in his run where like Bruce Wayne takes 2-minute micro sleeps to keep himself like going in the Batcave. So I took that as a reference to that.
Could be.
But with nothing else further to say, you want me to talk about Collapser number 2?
Sure.
By Mikey Way and Sean Simon. Vince, you didn't continue on with this, but I am. The opening, the whole part of this is our main character just kind of being flung through different landmarks in the world, and then like with his powers going crazy because he doesn't know how to control them, he just ends up destroying them. So like he destroys Stonehenge, and then like he destroys the pyramids of Egypt, and he eventually gets captured and put in like an insane asylum, and kind of kind of learns to like control his powers, because it's like whenever he gets kind of anxiety or like he's like hearing voices in his head. So he's like trying to learn to channel out the voices. But like he's like seeing strange visions of like monsters attacking and whatnot. So that's eventually he ends up attacking like a person on a street, which is like when his friends put him in for like rehab essentially. Um, so he's learning to kind of channel out the voices and kind of forget about it. We get a good scene of electric shock therapy, which was kind of creepy. Um, but he does eventually. It's been in there 30 days, and he gets out. And when he gets out, his friend is like, "Are you seeing this?" And he looks, and just all the monsters he would see in the vision are now actually real and happening, and they're destroying the city. And like we got this like evil like skull guy who kind of looks like Red Skull, but he looks more like Skullface from Metal Gear Solid. He's like piloting a hot air balloon, um, talking about wanting to destroy the planet. And then we get a really creepy scene of our main character like having blood covered all over his hands because he's looking around the city and just everything's destroyed. So he kind of takes, and then the old man from that he was going to play chess with, he finds out that he passed away in this issue. He then sees him standing there, and he goes, and he tells Liam, who's our main character, he we have a great deal to talk about, but first you got to save the city. So it was kind of crazy and really, really bombastic, but really, really cool. The art is amazingly good, especially with the colors, which we talked about very positively last time. So I'm going to keep sticking with this. I really like Mikey Way's kind of character work here. I think it's pretty strong, but I think Vince, I think you'll like it checking out when it's all collected and done.
Yeah, that's basically my take. It's just like these kinds of young animal trippy things. It's the same thing with Doom Patrol. I don't know if I can take them month to month, but I'll probably read this eventually.
Which brings us to Event Leviathan number 3. So we're halfway done with Event Leviathan. 6 issues, so we're halfway there. I like the cover here of Batman getting attacked by all of Leviathan's men as like Leviathan's in the background doing like the evil finger like kind of thing going in the background. I like the cover. The
Okay,
whole crux of the issue.
That happened in this book.
No, it does not happen in this book. But fun cover. The whole crux of this issue, though, is the group of detectives kind of figure out. Well, they all got bested by Red Hood, Jason Todd, when they thought he was Leviathan. They were going to track him down. He beats all of them and was like, and then Lois questions him and said, "Hey, all of that's really smart, and it's something I would kind of do, but I didn't do it." So Jason pretty much clears his name, and our group of detectives are back in the Fortress of Solitude, kind of back at square one, going, "All right, who is Leviathan?" And picking up with who destroyed all of these agencies around the DC universe. Everything we've been back to before. I love the action sequences that Malieve has laid out here of the whole team trying to go track down and bring in Red Hood, because we left the last issue with them going to chase after him. I thought the whole sequence with Batman, Robin, and Red Hood crashing through the through the skylight and battling in that fountain was really, really good. And I liked the conversation he has with Lois, where where they both kind of go through all the facts being laid out. They get back to talking about where's Amanda Waller, because she's got to be prime suspect number 1 on this list. And we get back to what happened in Action Comics, where Waller was kind of being held there by Superman because that was the safest place on Earth for her. But while there, she bugged the Fortress of Solitude. So our whole group of heroes at this point are like, well, we cannot stay here because they've been listening to our conversations the whole time. In which we cut back to Amanda Waller, who's confronted by Leviathan again. She says she knows who he is, and they kind of have a whole standoff, and then Superman shows up, and that's where we end. But we end with the tease of next issue is Batman versus Superman versus Leviathan. So I'm wondering how that's all going to play out here. And I've seen kind of online the the leading candidates to who Leviathan's going to be. A lot of people are thinking Max Lord. I think Max Lord could be a fun idea. I was talking with that Vince off air, but you said Max Lord was already used as like a villain again in Justice League versus Suicide Squad, but I didn't even remember that or remember that he was in it. So I'll open it to Vince first. Who do you think Leviathan is with alien technology? Some people think Blue Beetle as well, which I don't think that could be true.
I don't. If they care at all about continuity, I don't think that could be true because he was just in Heroes in Crisis.
Exactly. Unless it's Jaime with the alien technology.
I doubt that, but also, and possibly playing into it, and more likely probably not, is that we know Jaime is one of the infected by the Batman Who Laughs. So that may also contradict, having him a factor in two events. I think Max Lord would just be predictable. I think that's part of it.
But it also Bendis doesn't care about continuity half the time anyway. So who gives a shit? If he was the bad guy in Justice League versus Suicide Squad, I can see him going, I want to use Max Lord. We're going to use Max Lord. Also, people thinking that it's Mr. Miracle, and I'm like, I don't know how that's true at all.
Well, that seems just like a totally random guess. I have an ultimate fuck continuity move by Bendis, which would be pretty ironic, is it could be Snapper Carr. That would be an interesting pick, but
actually that would be awesome.
But the continuity would be strange because, of course, Snapper Carr was shown as totally jokey and ineffective in Dial H, which is in Bendis' line.
But he would have access to all the Justice League files being stationed at the old headquarters in Detroit, though, so maybe it's all a cover.
I don't know who it is. Honestly, I'm not finding this series that interesting. The fight scenes, some of them were a little... I actually thought the pacing in some of them were a little iffy, and honestly, just the pacing as a whole in this entire sequence, I was a little unclear on at moments. But the scene with the water splashing with Rob and Batman and Jason, that was really, really cool stuff. A lot of that is on the coloring. And Bendis, it seems in all the Superman books and this, they're doing his credit pages on computer desktops.
Yeah, there's look at.
I feel like I'm kind of tired of it. They're kind of gimmicky and I don't find them interesting. And this one, I wasted my time going through it. And I'm like, there's nothing interesting that I can see here. And a lot of it's really stupid. There's a text conversation or a chat between the detective heroes. And it's why would they be, it doesn't make any sense. And they're saying absolutely nothing to each other, whatever. Lois is depicted really well in this series. I saw some people criticizing Bendis' Batman. It doesn't bother me a ton. I don't really see, it doesn't stick out to me as bad or anything.
Criticizing his Batman, how?
I don't know. I just saw a lot of people saying that his Batman sucks, but I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't see it at all. I think he's maintained a good voice for every DC character he's written, pretty much, other than maybe Flash.
I haven't read the Flash appearance. I remember hearing about but I don't like his Plastic Man. But that's just, I've talked about this before. Yeah. That's more like a overall editorial direction for Plastic Man than a Bendis issue.
Yeah, because I like his Plastic Man. I think it's pretty good.
And on that note, Lois in this issue teases Plastic Man and calls him not Elongated Man, which on one level potentially makes sense in this specific situation because there's supposed to be a bunch of detectives and Elongated Man. Even though they both have that sort of background, because Plastic Man, a former crook and then worked with the police and the FBI, but Elongated Man definitely a more famous detective. But as far as the overall presence in the DCU and definitely power levels, I feel like it's slightly weird to call out Plastic Man as a Elongated Man ripoff or Elongated Man substitute. To me, it's the opposite, or it should be the opposite. But realistically, through most of the history of DC Universe, it's not. I don't know. Whatever. That line stood out to me. But it's not bad. It's actually kind of clever. I just don't agree with it.
So Leviathan is really elongated, man, and it's all revenge for Identity Crisis.
I don't know. It could be. If Identity Crisis is canon, who the hell knows?
It should be. It's a crisis.
So that's that. I'm enjoying a bit. I don't really care though, to be honest. It doesn't fit. It's sort of the point, but it doesn't feel like an event. I don't know. Moving on to Flash number 76, Joshua Williamson, Gerardo Sandoval, who I believe, I think he was on some Amazing Spider-Man issues, or he was on some. He's flipping between books. He was on something else we've been reading. Barry is doing a lot of superheroics around the world. This like picks up from year one, but it doesn't like fully like. I don't fully understand it because in the beginning of year one, it was like sort of present set, and then here's a flashback or whatever, and then it didn't kind of end in the same exact bookend way. But Barry's doing superhero stuff, and he assists Kid Flash, Wallace West, the black one, and the Flash of China, and her code name is Flash. She's just the one from China, which I feel like if they're going to keep using her, but also not really have a book for those characters, I feel like she probably should have a new code name at some point if she's going to become a Flash supporting character. The two of them are fighting Tar Pit and Girder, who are Flash villains created by Jeff Johns in his Wally West run. And Barry helps them, and we get references to the Trickster arc and then to the Flash 4 arc. We saw him rebuild the Flash Museum. He has a speed lab. It's kind of like a bat cave, but for the Flash aesthetic and police scientists kind of stuff. And it's behind the painting in the middle of the Flash Museum. So it's almost like Super Mario 64 style, where they have to vibrate through the painting to get to their bat cave. And meanwhile, the Lex enhanced Captain Cold saves Heatwave, and they're going to get the Rogues back together. And then the Speed Force is weakening, and all the Flashes are getting slower after all the other forces were unleashed. Then suddenly the Black Flash shows up and wants to kill Steadfast and get rid of all the new unleashed forces. This book, it's still fine. I mean, I still like how Josh Williamson has a handle on the Flash franchise and everything. I like seeing some more like Flash family stuff, even if the two characters chosen here, Wallace West and Flash of China, are like the two Flash family characters that I'm least interested in out of like 10 characters. But it looks like he's taking this book in an interesting direction. It's cool seeing Black Flash show up as a surprise. But overall, it doesn't have
Black Flash right now.
No, this is like Black Flash, like the metaphysical Speed Force type thing.
Yeah, he doesn't have like a person right now. Like it's usually like it's sometimes been an avatar of someone.
Not that we can tell.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but it's an issue that like it's the avatar of the person it's going to possess.
Yes, so I guess it's Steadfast or whoever. So this issue focused really more on like the parts of Williamson's run that don't excite me as much. But he's still, and obviously there's no Howard Porter anymore in this issue, but it's still pretty fun. That was my overall take.
Yeah, it's a little weird because like I missed the last issue of the year one storyline, I think. So I'm jumping into this like a little bit trying to catch up, but yeah, I think it's a pretty cool issue to kind of pick up with. I mean, I like the opening with like the whole action scene with like Tar Pit and the other villain. But yeah, it's cool.
Next is Hawkman number 15. There's my face. Robert Venditti.
Up on me. I didn't read this book.
The art here, and I believe on certain subsequent issues, is by Pat Olive, which is fine because he's a great artist. but I kind of thought Will Conrad was the new ongoing artist, but maybe people just misinterpreted that because they saw the solicit for his first issue and assumed he was ongoing. We open in Opal City with the Shade. Hawkman is after him for help dealing with the newly enhanced Shadow Thief. There's reference to what Hope O'Dare is up to. And then finally, and there's also references to like previous encounters in history between Hawkman and the Shade. And as someone who is both a big Starman fan, which the Shade, the modern appearance of the Shade is all tied into that, and a huge Hawkman fan, I was like thinking real hard of like, when did I last read this stuff? Because I couldn't think of major like appearances with Hawkman and the Shade together, but I could be totally forgetting something. But if it's just like, hey, they did this and we never showed it, that's fine as well. They're both, it fits with both of them. They both have like long lives and everything like that. And the Shade finally realizes that Hawkman doesn't have a shadow, and so they rush to a safe room in case like any kinds of stuff like this happens. And the safe room is just basically light panels as the floor, ceilings, and walls, and they're all bright light. So there's no shadows in the room. But then, there are two people in a room, so they're having a conversation. Suddenly the Shade like vomits out the Shadow Thief because by speaking and opening his mouth, he created a shadow in his like mouth and throat, which allowed the Shadow Thief to come through. It's kind of clever. And the Shadow Thief steals the Shade's shadow and fucks off. Hawkman has like a temper tantrum and destroys all the walls and floor and the ceiling of the room. And then Shade takes him to the Shadowlands. And it was a fun issue. This was a real treat for me, seeing the Shade and connecting him with Hawkman and the Shadow Thief and everything like that. It's pretty cool. I believe Gentleman Ghost showed up in like Wonder Woman or something, which that's usually a Hawkman villain. So we're seeing a lot of characters.
He shows up in Catwoman this week. I saw.
Oh yeah, no, it was in Catwoman. So we're seeing a lot of like villains kind of shift around this year, the villain stuff, which is exciting. It's kind of cool. Always fun. Yeah, another good issue of Hawkman, and now we're fully into the Shadow Thief arc. Whereas before we were kind of getting a few one shots in this post Brian Hitch period.
It's weird seeing those things, like those elements not being written by James Robinson. Is this the first time we've seen Opal City and it's like post New 52?
Well, first of all, technically the Shade maxi series is post Flashpoint, sort of.
That is, yeah, I guess it is.
But I'm not certain. I know the Shade had a major arc in Josh Williamson's Flash, which made sense because, of course, he's originally a Flash villain. Granted,
Right.
Jake still. I'm assuming Opal City was referenced. I'm not certain though. And I think there were some Starman references in Justice League. Obviously, Will Payton Starman is in that book, but I believe
we saw the Cosmic Rod in like the jail trophy room.
Yeah, a little bit of like references. But as far as I know, I mean, the deal with James Robinson, and again, I'm pretty sure it's an informal one, similar to like what Stan Lee had with Silver Surfer, is like, hey, no one's gonna write Starman because the character totally had an ending and everything.
Right.
But the Shade is a long-running 80-year-old DC villain. So
yeah,
I thought it was cool.
Like it's just like everyone. It's like I guess it's you can use those elements. You just can't use Jack Knight.
Yeah, and I mean, and honestly, we'll kind of get into a similar discussion later on the show. But like, I don't care if a creator created a character, had a definitive run, and everything like that. You can't really like Jack Knight is different, but like Opal City, it would be weird actually to box it off and be like, oh, it's done, never reference it again. It's cooler like, hey, this person did build up this whole thing, so every once in a while when it actually makes sense, we're going to reference it. We'll fly through the city. Someone will say they're from Opal City or something like that.
Especially because like Opal City is such a big part of Robinson's run and like characterizing and giving the foundation history of that place.
Yeah. So that's our DC books. As You're the Villain and Dark Gifts and whatever the hell messes with all the books, adds on useless epilogues and misleading covers. Marvel, they're also up to some shenanigans, but I don't think there's that many shenanigans in the book we read. But we will determine that as we move into the next issue.
Right, The Amazing Spider-Man number 27 by Nick Spencer and Kev Walker's the penciler on this issue. I think Kev Walker, I might have mentioned this the last time. He has enough style that's similar to Ryan Otley that I kind of don't see a true difference between it. So it's almost like seamless for me in terms of the trade-off. But the Syndicate is attacking the New Feast Center because they're going after they're going after Boomerang because they all hate Boomerang because he's an asshole. And it's just one of those kind of fun elements of like Peter's got to get out of here, but he's also going to take care of Aunt May. I forgot that Aunt May doesn't know that Peter's Spider-Man anymore, which is stupid. But thanks one more day. But I love all the banter between the women of the Syndicate, as they all kind of share this mutual hatred for Beetle. I'm sorry, not for Boomerang. Beetle's the leader of the Syndicate. Spider. I thought Spider-Man had some really good banter himself when he swings into action here, and like they're all surprised that they showed up. And I love the kind of team up we get with Boomerang and Spider-Man, because Boomerang's happy to see him, and Spider-Man's just kind of like, oh, God, I don't want to do this. But the Syndicate pretty much team up, and they're able to take out Spidey, and they do leave with Boomerang, and we do know that Boomerang is the one that sold out Electro to Kingpin, which is why Electro has her gripe with him. So it's all kind of things we've seen kind of all coming together here on this. One of the main takeaways on this for me, though, is kind of the going back and referencing all the stuff that's happened previously in Spencer's run, where like we referenced like one of the very first arcs with where he used Boomerang to steal the piece of technology Spider-Man needed to make himself whole again when he got split in two, and stuff like that. And then when Pete swings back to his apartment, he notices that the sky lights up, and oh wait, he's like, oh, I didn't leave that open because I didn't come out of that. What's going on? And it finds out that Randy Randy Robertson, his roommate, is making out with the Beetle. She's dating the Beetle, he's dating the Beetle. It's just like that adds just like another element of like, oh no, kind of like craziness to this. I think it's really really fun though. I like this book a lot. I think this is definitely was in contention for my pick of the week. Actually, I'm going to give it my pick of the week. It's the book I had the most fun with this week.
Yeah, I liked it, and not just referencing to earlier Nick Spencer in this run. Obviously, a lot of this drama and continuity hinges on superior foes, and Boomerang sold out that group, which included, this early version of Beetle. But then also, it seems Beetle is working behind the scenes to sell out this group as well. She's got some stuff hooked up with the Kingpin this time. And also,
we'll say though, if Kingpin and Daredevil has gotten out of crime, I don't know exactly when this lines up, but whatever.
Also, there's he looks better later on, but there's one panel where two panels, and they're like profile shots and stuff. But Kev Walker's Kingpin is a little iffy to me, slightly off model in my opinion. And also, Randy's making out with Beetle in costume. That's definitely worth noting.
Yeah.
And as far as I get why Beetle leads the team and everything, but like White Rabbit is the only one of these characters that goes back to like the 80s or maybe and I think early 80s. But every other one of these characters, especially like in their current roles, is like barely 10 years old. So it's kind of interesting that White Rabbit is just like the other one.
Is the female Dr. Octopus the second oldest then?
Yeah, I guess. To be honest, every time I read these issues with her appearing, I have to like remind myself who she is.
What's funny though is we get the moment where they all talk about like the other like male villains kind of putting them down. We get a call out to Alistair Smythe corrected her theory of inherited clone memory, but she wrote it. So like it's just kind of now fun to get like see Spencer like knows his continuity and stuff like that because she made her first appearance during the Clone Saga.
Yeah. She's Carolyn Trainer, Seward Trainer's daughter. I miss Seward Trainer.
Though I will say, her look now is much more reminiscent of the Dr. Octopus in the Into the Spider-Verse film.
Yeah, which I don't really like, but I mean, I liked it for Into the Spider-Verse. I don't like that she looks like that.
I think it's a better costume than the one she had in the 90s.
I mean, that's a low bar. All right, we're reading a bunch of Spider-Man books this week, and we're all going to tackle one. On to the next one.
Yeah, so the next Spidey issue we have here is Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So, yeah, so I don't think anyone was reading this before I jumped in and read it, because I'm basically jumping into the middle of a story arc. Well, kind of like the end of it, I guess. But basically, what's happened is you have this guy called Helminth, I think his name is. I don't know if I ever read anything with him before, but he's basically like taking all this money from these poor people and like not helping them out and all that stuff. And Hobie Brown, who is the Prowler, goes to try to Hobie. Oh, I'm sorry, Hobie. My bad. I mispronounced it. But yeah, he's basically going to try to like fight this guy to fix this neighborhood because it's kind of like part of like his neighborhood that he's screwing over. We also get a team up with Spider-Man's neighbor, who's called Marnik, who is also known as the Rumor. And pretty much the way this issue starts, we have Spider-Man going to Tony Stark, ask him for a favor. Tony starts to suit up, and Spider-Man's like, "I don't need Iron Man. I need Tony Stark." And then we fly off. A little bit discussion with Rumor, and then pretty much the rest of the issue is Spider-Man kind of fighting this Helminth guy that's taking this, building hostage in this neighborhood that the Prowler lives in. The Prowler kind of gets the shit beat out of him, and Spider-Man comes in and bails him out. And what's really cool, we get a nice splash page here because Helminth has like these powers that can make people like see their nightmares and like their worst, things. And we get a splash page of a lot of different like callbacks to Spider-Man's history. You get Venom. You have like, you have the Spider-Man No More shot with him throwing his suit into the dumpster, which I thought was really cool. But then, Peter's just like, I've dealt with people who've done that to me worse than you have. So, yeah, I'm just going to beat the shit out of you. And so he does. He beats the shit out of him. And then these guys come in and are like, you're trespassing on this property that this guy owns. And then Tony's like, he shows up in his Iron Man armor and he's like, I actually bought the majority share, so you're screwed. So that's pretty much it. At the end here, Peter talks to Hobie about like, being the one to head up this new project, this new like community like reclamation project. And Tony Stark shows up and kind of convinces him to join him. So I thought it was really kind of a fun issue. For coming into the end of this story arc, I kind of was able to pick it up pretty easily.
I'm pretty sure this was the first part of it. This was a one and done. This wasn't the last issue, the one with the kid with cancer.
I don't know.
It was.
Oh, was it? Okay.
think it was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was really cool. I mean, the art was pretty good, I thought. Action scenes were kind of cool. But yeah, just another typical Spider-Man issue. Nothing really too crazy about this one. So
Sticking with it.
maybe. I mean, the ad for the next issue shows like a woman putting on a Spider-Man costume. Looks like Mary Jane. So I don't know what that's gonna be all about. So maybe I'll read and find out. I'll report back.
I guess no. Dan, you'd be right. The last issue is the secret history of the rumor. So
Oh, okay, so yes, probably got two.
Number 8 was the issue with the kid.
Okay, gotcha.
Our final Spider-Man book, Symbiote Spider-Man #5, the last issue of this series. I didn't even read last issue. I think I must have missed that episode or something. I don't remember, or I just skipped the issue. I may have decided to drop this book and then I forgot about that, so I read this issue. But
doesn't matter. It's over now.
Yeah, in last issue, basically, Black Cat betrayed Spider-Man and ended up delivering to Mysterio a fragment of the black suit, which no one totally understands is a symbiote at this point. And I guess this continuity insert might be what actually sets up Mysterio to possibly appear in Absolute Carnage. Because when we talked about Absolute Carnage, I mentioned Mysterio, but I don't remember actually off the top of my head when else he would have been infected. And definitely, if he ever was infected in addition to this, obviously it was after this. So retroactively, this is Mysterio, not infected, but this is Mysterio using the symbiote. And he's beating up Spidey, who also, again, because Mysterio only has like a fragment of the symbiote, Spidey still has a symbiote. And in fact, initially in this issue, he's like in the kind of coma state, asleep version, where later on it was retconned that the symbiote sometimes would like take Spider-Man out on patrol, but like Spider-Man be unconscious, which was a really weird concept. And so Spidey's a little aggressive here since he's kind of on autopilot. And then the Black Cat shows up to turn the tide with an awful Greg Land shock face. Mysterio, he doesn't know it, but he ends up being an idiot by using fire, which makes the symbiote like, yeah, fuck you, runs off to Peter, which again, retroactively, this might be the first instance of showing the symbiote's fire weakness. I assume that's the case. And so Spider-Man, then there's like a shock and Spider-Man wakes up, figures out what's going on. There's big dinosaur illusion out of nowhere. Black Cat with a baseball bat and then like dumb baseball inspired pinup poses knocks out Mysterio. There's a weird like multiple panel extended gag about Steven Spielberg, and it talks about Jurassic Park being an upcoming movie. That movie comes out in 1993. I don't know like how long it was in development, how long the public knew about it. I could be totally wrong, but this seems like a continuity issue, because this story is supposed to take place around 1984, 1985, when he actually had the black suit and was dating Black Cat. Then the story just ends. And also Aunt May is up to some stuff. And this actually goes along with the continuity where, like, at this time, you know, Peter kept dropping out of academic pursuits. Like, for a long stretch, he was a TA at Empire State, and then he just gave up and abandoned that. And so Aunt May, for some of this period, was kind of like disappointed in him, and there was a bit of past regression. But none of that is like really explained much in this issue. So it just seems like Aunt May is like being like cold and up to some shit for no reason. And that's where it ends. And there's going to be a sequel with the Hobgoblin. I still don't think I've like officially seen a website say there's going to be a sequel with the Hobgoblin, which is weird because this came out. And
we have at least a teaser image, though.
Yeah, there's a teaser here, but even before that, like, I don't know how Marvel did not announce it before this issue was on the stands. And it's not like it's this insane, really cool thing where this teaser in the back is going to carry the press for the book. But my overall thoughts, I don't really think Symbiote Spider-Man is worth reading. It doesn't entirely work as a continuity insert for this era. It's also not very good. I'll ask you guys this question in a second, but I'm probably not reading the sequel. It's somewhat reliant on whether Greg Land is involved. If it's another artist and an artist I'm more interested in, I might try out the first issue. But otherwise, it's like I really don't like this.
Nah, man, I'm not reading the sequel. I'm out.
Yeah, I mean this, like, I thought like it was easy to follow, but like there's just not a lot of substance going on in this story. I also looked up your question about the Jurassic Park. The novel wasn't even written until 1990, so there definitely is some sort of continuity problem going on here.
Yeah, well, it's fucked up sliding timescale stuff, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
that's not even sliding timescale though, because like, right?
well, I don't know. You could say it is, but even if it's sliding timescale, then Peter Parker should possibly be like 40 something. It doesn't matter. It's not really worth talking about. But there's definitely
Nothing matters.
There's definitely some like contradictory stuff in this series, and it just doesn't really add much. And when they do use the footnotes, I'm pretty sure one of them was wrong, if I remember correctly. And when they do use the footnotes, like they don't use them enough. They're not very interesting. One was just like, oh, hey, Cloak and Dagger appeared around this time, if I remember correctly. But yeah, skip Symbiote Spider-Man. Not worth it. Not very good. Next is Conan the Barbarian Exodus. This is a one-shot written and drawn by artist Assad Ribic. I mean, he plots it. He did all the art, so he wrote the issue. That's how, visual storytelling comic books work. He plotted it. But it's a silent issue, so, there's not a ton of script here. But it's not actually a silent issue. Halfway through, there's kind of a surprise where a bunch of characters start having dialogue, but it's a language foreign to Conan and to us as readers. It's not translated or anything, and there's no stupid translator tool where we could figure it out, as far as I can tell. So effectively, it's still without a script, and they might as well just be sound effects. The story here, I guess, is Conan. He's an indeterminate age. I think he's on the younger side in his life. He's living a nomad life, going around hunting and eating various animals. Sometimes other animals creepily stalk him or watch him eat different animals. It's kind of weird. At first, it's this cyclical thing with wolves or something, and he tries to loot the aftermath of a raided village. I guess he gets caught. There's a quick skirmish. He runs away, but then he gets grabbed and taken to a town. And he gets not crucified, but he gets strung up. But then they take him down and have him healing. But maybe he gets strung up again, and then he escapes. I don't know. I don't have much commentary on this issue. It looks really nice. Assad Ribic's art here is good, whereas a lot of times I'm not a huge fan of him, and especially a lot of his very recent covers I don't like, or really just most of his covers in general. But this is, if you're a Conan fan, I would say this is definitely worth checking out. But it's not going to blow you away or anything.
All right.
Now, another book for me, we have Fantastic Four number 13 by Dan Slott, Sean Isaacs C. I think that's how you pronounce it. There is no Future Foundation backup to annoy me this time. We open the issue with Ben's narration explicitly saying he has 52 minutes left. The entire last issue, I thought it was seconds, which probably just means I'm a very bad reader, but I feel like that wasn't clear last issue.
I agree, and the fact that wasn't clear. So,
yeah, so the stakes, since it wasn't clear last issue, a lot of people probably might make that mistake. So as this issue opens, the stakes just completely get cut in half. They're not as crazy. So what's going on here is we already knew as readers that the puppet master is manipulating Hulk. It was pretty damn obvious, but it's very quickly revealed here. And so puppet master controlled Hulk is fighting the Thing. Alicia helps people get out of the rubble, which is kind of cool. Some kind of cool character stuff. where she's like, yeah, I work with stone and rocks all day as a sculptor. Also, I'm blind, so being in the dark doesn't matter much. Feeling my way around doesn't matter much. And also, my husband's made of rocks. And there's some drama where Thing realizes that and I remember reading this because I peeked into the series for the wedding. The Thing got permission from Puppet Master to marry Alicia, but it turns out no, Alicia like manipulated that. So who knows if that's going to come back for more drama. But ultimately, the point of that was to show, yeah, Alicia does actually love me. So even if you would say no, it doesn't matter. And she comes across the Thing, and she gives him a pep talk. Basically, this fight isn't about brawn. It's not even about brain. It's about who has the heart, and no one has more heart than the ever-loving blue-eyed Thing. And jumps back into the fight, and we get a 2-page splash panel of the big knockout punch as he starts transforming back into Ben Grimm. It's a really great splash page. There's speed lines, there's shock waves, the impact on Hulk's cheek, all the rocks flying as the Thing basically busts up his arm and is transforming at the same time. Actually, in that aspect, like the whole like one punch as your arm breaks, it's actually very reminiscent of the anime My Hero Academia. And the end here, as we get, it's not an epilogue, but flash to the future. Thing was in a coma for a week. He has to wear it's kind of dorky, but it's also kind of cool, a vibranium cast. It's a lot cooler than when he wore a stupid metal helmet after he got like poison scarring his face, or I forget the specifics of that. But it's a lot better than that era. And turns out he missed the whole honeymoon and the pregnancy, which was part of their plans. They were gonna, while Ben was human, he was gonna try and start a family with Alicia, which I feel like is slightly weird because it just calls to attention their sex life while he's the Thing, which is very strange. Not something that I think you should call attention to in Fantastic Four. But the ultimate thing here is that he beat the Hulk fair and square, and this really is the first time. The closest fight that they had in the Thing's favor was Fantastic Four number 320, and that was a weird era in Marvel where the Thing was in his like pineapple kind of form. That's the like nickname for it. And the Hulk, yeah, and the Hulk was in his Gray Hulk, but really like the Joe Fixit era. But that issue continued. It was part of a crossover. It continued into a Peter David Hulk issue where the Hulk won. So essentially, each of them won in their own book, which I always thought was a really cool way to handle it. But since the Hulk was the second part, ultimately you could argue that he won. He's the strongest there is. But the Thing wins for the first time ever in this issue, a fair fight against the Hulk. And then the epilogue essentially is the Hulk going to the raft, goes after the Puppet Master, breaks his hands, and he's going to do more off panel. And there's a great idea snuck in where to get to the raft, which is in the middle of the ocean, Banner was just like swimming in the middle of the ocean. He would drown and fucking die, but he can't die because it's Hulk and it's immortal Hulk. So then the Hulk, awakens, and then at some point he must transform back into Banner. So Banner died like repeatedly trying to swim to the raft to get the Hulk's revenge. And I really enjoyed this. I know Mike has nitpicks. I'm probably sticking with this book now, and the next arc is a return to some cosmic rays stuff, which better not be some dumb retcons. Please don't do that.
Dumb retcons, it is.
Probably. I really enjoyed. This is my pick of the week, in fact.
Oh wow! All right. Well, I don't know why, because I think I do know why, because it was a rocky fight at the end. If you pun maybe intended. No, I just think Slott's voice for Immortal Hulk is just wrong. Like he doesn't describe Banner as puny anymore. He likes Banner, and he kind of looks out for him. So I just don't buy right now that the Immortal Hulk would be able to get like taken over by Puppet Master. He's too smart right now for that. and I really think like no one should be able to touch him except for Al Ewing, because the more people touch him, you're gonna get moments like this that are just gonna just contradict what's been laid out over like 22 issues in his book right now, and it's kind of like a fine set thing right now. Don't mess with it. So that's my issues with it. Other than that, I like all the all the stuff with the thing. Um, I might continue on with the book. Depends on like when the next issue comes out and what other stuff I'm reading that week. So like Penmian is a maybe.
Yeah, this kind of goes back to my comments on Opal City, where like I get where you're coming from to a certain extent, but also, and actually this has plagued the Hulk in the past. During the Peter David era, you'd have occasional Hulk guest appearances in other books, and he would be written either slightly out of character personality, or even worse, like the wrong form. Like
Right.
there's an era of Peter David's run where he's like Professor Hulk, and in a Web of Spider-Man issue, I believe, there's like a generic like Jolly Green Giant dumb Hulk appearance, which didn't make any sense continuity wise. But that's just a challenge with guest appearances, especially of characters that are not like always the same, like Spider-Man, Superman, Batman. But at the same time, and the thing is, I don't put that on Slott. I put that on the editors. The editors should have coordinated more with Dan Slott. Like, hey, slightly tweak this. You got to slightly do it this way. Tweak it, whatever. The editor should have been in control of that. They could have possibly coordinated with Ewing to a certain extent, but in as far as the shared universe concept goes, like to me, it's like with very few exceptions, you can't really say, yeah, this is my character, don't touch it. It's like this is the shared universe, that's how it works, and it's up to the editors to say, yeah, all right, we got to work things together and make it so that it actually works. I don't blame Slott for that. And also, obviously worth noting, I'm not reading Immortal Hulk, so if there were major things that didn't stand out to me, and even still, a lot of the stuff you said, if you're a big fan of Immortal Hulk, I can definitely understand the nitpicks, but also they do feel kind of not necessarily nitpicky, but they don't seem crucial, especially from the perspective of Fantastic
They're not
Four.
crucial, but it's enough to make me annoyed.
Yeah. But I think it works overall, and the cross-pollination is kind of cool.
All right. With that, Invaders, number 8. Terrifying. The Iron Torch declares war is what's put across the cover. I'm going to quickly ask Vince, do you hate Human Torch's new costume?
Yeah, it's like the worst thing ever.
It's so bad. Add that to the list of bad things Tony Stark has done. Ruining Jim Hammond is now there.
Hey.
What?
Don't bash on my character like that.
Well, he should not ruin a classic character by giving Jim Hammond Iron Man armor because he doesn't need it.
Everybody needs Iron Man armors. They need a suit around the world.
Yeah, how'd that work out?
Yeah.
Wait, he's dead.
Triggered.
But yeah, the whole point of this is Jim Hammond is with Toro and Tony Stark on the roof is like he's freaking out, and Toro calms him down, and because they're all wondering what to do with the Namor situation. And I liked how Toro calms him down at Coney Island, which is where they fought, which is where Jim Hammond fought Namor for the first time. I thought that was a nice touch. But the rest of this issue is really just Bucky going down at like a restaurant and having a sit down conversation with Namor, kind of laying out, recapping what's happened. Full out, Namor's being mind controlled by Tommy Macon, or I guess the manifestation of him. Like whatever Professor X did to him, it really messed him up. And so you can also add that to the list of horrible atrocities that Professor Xavier's done. So we get a twofer this week on things characters have done horribly in secret pasts. But everything's kind of laid out here and shown what's happening, and Namor's kind of having he's kind of battling with himself because he knows that he doesn't want to be doing these things, and Bucky's trying to help him out, and eventually Namor succumbs to his demons once again as he attacks Bucky. Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman, kind of comes in, and she does some pretty cool stuff where she puts like a force field around him to try to like calm him down and try to contain the damage that's happening. And then it's revealed that he's been wearing the serpent crown the whole time, and things are just going to get crazier and crazier. Really good moment with Captain America here, where he's kind of like gets angry enough that he's just kind of like starts pounding on a computer because he wants to help these people that have been transformed into Atlanteans. And even with like the top scientists in the Marvel universe working on it, it's not looking like there's going to be any breakthrough for this. And it's whether you like it or not, Namor is responsible for this, and Namor's still good friends with Captain America. So I like the kind of internal struggle we have here with these characters here. I really like this book. The Butch Geist flashbacks still are really, really good, but I'm liking Carlos Magno more and more on this book. Vince, I'll open the floor to you.
Yeah, I still don't fully like Magno, and Butch Geist doesn't have a single page in this issue, I don't think.
I thought he did when we have the flashbacks. Maybe not.
Maybe like one of them. I mean, there's the Oracle scene, which that's set in the 90s, so that's still Magno. But Magno does the scale mail on.
He's got like 3 pages.
I don't. So Charles basically gave Namor multiple personality disorder, essentially. And that layer of him does all the crazy planning and calls the shots. And some of this scheming dates back at least to the Oracle days of John Byrne, which I don't really like that, because then this is a retcon which calls into question basically everything Namor's ever done post World War II. And it's kind of weird. And it's kind of like how they were claiming, that Captain America had been a secret Empire agent all along, or maybe he still is. I don't know. That's the whole issue with Captain America forever at this point, and now with Namor. And Byrne's explanation for Namor's kind of face and heel turning outbursts and attacking humanity was kind of similar, but his idea was he couldn't spend too much time in water or too much time on land. If he did, it would make him erratic, so he had to balance it, and he didn't know that. And this could almost tie in, but if that was the case, it should like date back all the way to like his first appearances where he was fighting the Torch. But this is all post-war, so it doesn't really fit together. Sue Storm coming along was cool. There's some major moment in the end where Bucky now knows more of Namor's plan, but it's not revealed to the readers yet. And I don't know, overall, I don't like how they're getting kind of larger scope and more retconny with the Namor stuff. But the series itself is technically sound, and we get a tease of another invader showing up next. It could be Spitfire, could be the Golden Age Vision, could be Destroyer. Technically, it could be Sam Wilson, Falcon. Technically, it could be Union Jack 3. Or there are like 2 obscure new characters that are technically invaders from James Robinson's run.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's literally it. Like all the other characters, like the major ones like Wizard, Miss America, they're all dead, or like one of them has Alzheimer's. So,
well, technically, they could show up if it's flashback.
Well, yeah, but I don't think the tease words it like that. I think it's like
no, I don't think it does either. I was just opening that door as a possibility.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, I think the series is really good. I don't like what's being done to Namor.
I can agree with that, but I'll let you get. I'll tell you this because I think it'll make you happy. I'm liking Namor from reading this, so I can say I like Namor now.
Yeah, but it's like a slightly different version of him because he's like
no. Like I'm definitely like more open to like reading some classic Namor after this.
Okay.
You should get the that's coming out.
No, I don't want that.
No, you're not getting Timely's greatest omnibus.
No.
You
Well,
should.
I was gonna joke about that because I thought you were. I assumed you were referring to the John Byrne omnibus,
I'm not
Oh,
gonna
that
which
get.
would be.
Listen, I'll read it. I ain't gonna buy it. I'll just steal it from you.
All right. So actually, the next issue is technically out of order, but we're going to keep the order because remember, this is the name of the series.
is it really?
Yeah, but go ahead.
You're actually right. There you go. Yeah. So this cover is accurate to what actually happens in this issue. So yeah. So basically, as we pick up from last issue, Riri is trying to track down the Ten Rings. She had an encounter with them earlier in this run, so she's trying to track them down before they cause damage. Ten Rings being like the terrorist organization that is centered around the Mandarin, and all that stuff. Um, but yeah, she goes to Doctor Strange last issue, finds out that there's this wellspring of power that the Ten Rings is trying to use as a portal, I guess, to unleash some sort of trouble into the world. So they find out that the well is actually in Wakanda. So we open up to Riri talking with Tony on a view screen type of thing, and he gives her all the information she'll need to get to Wakanda. The contact, all that stuff. We then cut to Burn in Zana, which is the capital city of Wakanda, and flying down her armor. This armor is really starting to grow on me. I really like it. I mean, I like the design. It's really unique, I think, for her.
Oh, easy.
Yeah, but what about the logo? What about the heart logo?
I think it's kind of cool. I like the fact that it's off center too. I mean, it would look a little weird if it was like placed right in the
The
middle.
only element of the costume I like is the heart logo.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool. I like it. If they announce the statue like a Diamond Select or something like that, I'll probably pick it up because I have the one from the first run when she was introduced. So that'll be a cool thing to have as well. But anyway, we get a nice interaction here between her and Shuri, since Shuri's the one that meets her in Wakanda. Because I'm assuming T'Challa is still in space, I think, at this point. So she,
Who knows? He's
yeah,
he's
No, he's in the Avengers.
yeah, who the fuck knows? I guess there's no continuity, I guess. But anyway, um, so yeah, so we get a little bit of discussion between the two of them. They're kind of going back and forth, being, trying to top each other in terms of their smarts and, the urgency behind, what the Ten Rings is trying to do here. And as they're squabbling back and forth, a giant earthquake hits Wakanda, and they go to find out what it is. And there's like these monsters that are like like shadow monsters that are going through the city and destroying shit. So we get a nice, team up with Riri and Shuri. And a cool moment. There's a moment here where the buildings collapse, and the one little kid's hesitant to go over to Riri to get saved, and Shuri shows up and talks to the little girl in Wakandan language, I guess, and tells her that the woman that's trying to save her is her sister. So I thought that was kind of cool. They kind of put aside their differences and a lot of saving the day and all that stuff. And at the end, they come back and try to figure out where the tremor's coming from. And just as they're about to figure it out, they find out that there's someone inside the building, and it's Silhouette. So I'm not sure exactly who the hell Silhouette is.
Whoa. Does she have
Um,
crutches?
she does have crutches, yeah.
Ooh, she's from the New Warriors.
From the New Warriors? Okay. So,
Oh
yeah.
wow! So I don't care.
Wow, New Warriors? Yeah, no. But yeah, that's kind of where we end. So she's inside of the Wakandan, research center. And yeah. I mean, this is pretty small scale for, what it is. There's not really a lot of stuff tying into this whole run, but it's interesting enough for me to keep reading. So the art is really nice in this story too. Let's see who's the artist. It's Luciano Vecchio. I don't know if you pronounced it right. Vecchio, probably Vecchio.
Never heard of him.
Exactly, but I mean, it's like a kind of like a poppy type of art. But yeah, cool stuff. Another solid issue.
All right, Silhouette showing up is kind of cool, is kind of really cool to me. But I'm weird. So next is Powers of X #2. Charles and Moira go to mind dump on Magneto, who takes off his helmet and is like, "Yeah, whatever, I'll chance it." And this is the like 10th life version of Moira. So Charles knows all about her previous lives, and now Magneto does. And so he's like, "Oh shit, that's crazy. Sure, let's team up," and they shake hands. But that's 10 years ago. So technically, if I'm reading this right, officially confirmed in this issue, this run is a hard reboot. That's
Yeah.
if you really think about it, that's how you have to take it. All of X-Men history did not happen in this 10th life of Moira McTaggart. All of the X-Men history that we know, I believe, is her 4th life, because on the timeline from Powers of X, House of X #2, I don't remember if it was the 4th one or the 6th one or whatever, but on one of them you see her death during the end of the Claremont run or so, whatever it was. You see that she faked her death in that timeline, but this is her 10th life, and this is year 0, year 1 of the X-Men, potentially before the X-Men are founded. So that means that the X-Men were founded and assembled by Charles and Magneto, and every X-Men comic that's ever been published didn't happen in this timeline.
Well, it did and it didn't is basically what they're playing with now.
Well, it happened in a previous alternate timeline, honestly, and this is where, if you think too hard, Moira's mutant power, like, it doesn't fully make sense. I guess it has to be multiverses. Like, every time she's reborn, it's a new multiverse, or every time she's born, she like straight up resets the timeline to her birth. Either way, yes, technically everything still happened, but it's not in this continuity. And that could be reversed or further complicated, or maybe I'm totally wrong, but I think that's what happens here.
No, I've been thinking the same thing. Like, it's one of those things where if you think too hard about it, it raises like 50 more questions, and like I'm even more confused. But like I did like the splash page of like Magneto seeing all of the things that happened to him. Like, we do get like there's references there to Uncanny 200 and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you on that, where I'm not fully understanding exactly how the X to the 010 and whatnot exactly flows.
It's crazy to me how like I have like a few friends at work that read these. Like, I've been reading this and the what's the other X-Men book that's out? House of X. And they're both telling me like, "Oh, you can pick this up and like you don't have to know any other X-Men stuff to understand it." And I'm like, not really.
You don't really have to know anything. It definitely enriches more if you do, I would say.
Yeah, but I mean, like, the fact that we're having a conversation about this, it's like that's, doesn't help you understand everything that's going on.
It makes it more complicated, but that's because Vince has read everything X-Men Under the Sun, and I've read 3 omnibuses and some change worth, and so have you.
Yeah.
So, like, if I were to give this to someone who's never read X-Men before, it's kind of a clean slate.
But I mean, there's the confusion level, but also if I'm right and kind of sort of, everything under the sun that I read sort of doesn't happen any longer in this timeline, that's very weird and potentially very concerning to me.
So let it be known, it's Powers of X #2 where Vince starts hating Hickman X-Men.
The ramifications, I mean, the story itself and the issues and the ideas are cool so far. It's just the ramifications. And again, there's 8 chapters left, so we will see how the dust settles. But that's really weird, and I got to think about it more and obviously read the next 8 chapters. But then in year 10, we have Magneto and Charles Xavier telling Cyclops about the mother mold and Orcus. So we get in-story actual exposition explaining those pages from the first issue. And then in year 100, Rasputin hands a USB drive, which we joked about in a previous issue, hands a USB drive to Apocalypse, who's with them. So now I believe we've seen all but one of these mutants that are still around in this timeline, in this area of the universe. And Nimrod gets really mad. He kills 2 humans and goes all Hamlet. And I continue to enjoy Hickman's Nimrod, where he's like unpredictable. He's pretty funny. It's a lot of fun. And I mean, the part where he like vaporizes these 2 dudes, it's a good art moment as well. And then followed up quickly by the Hamlet homage. It's not even an homage. Nimrod is just straight up like joking about Hamlet. And it turns out what these future X-Men stole is a map to get what they actually need. So then they have to plan this crazy heist. And again, it's not entirely clear if this is the Wolverine, the Magneto, and the Zorn. But the Groot-looking dude seems to pretty much be confirmed as some version of Krakoa here. I didn't know if that was a new thing or if it was like super future Tom Cassidy. Black Tom Cassidy. Then in the future timeline, year 1000, there's something about like a Nimrod, like a Nimrod spaceship crash landing into a planet to essentially build a giant supercomputer similar to the Kree World Mind, and then the Phalanx eats it as part of the ascension process. And there's talks of like different scales of civilizations and planets and everything like that. And a lot of the non-comic stuff, a lot of the prose and graphic stuff, it's like Technarchs versus World Minds versus Phalanx, the ascension process versus the techno-organic virus, and stuff like that. And a lot of that stuff is just dense and like not interesting to me. I don't ultimately actually care about this future timeline that much. And there's this point where Apocalypse is like, yeah, this is inevitable anyway, so it doesn't even matter. But overall, like the parts that were not set 100,000 years in the future, I really enjoyed. I thought this was a lot more enjoyable for my interest than Powers of X #1, which was way more focused on the year 100 and year 1000 stuff. This actually got to the present day X-Men stuff that I actually want in an X-Men book.
Alrighty. I'm flipped with you on this one. I thought there was too much of the Hickman like chart and definition tables in this one that really kind of took me out of the book, because the like last 4 pages of the book or all of that, and it just gave it to a grinding halt with me. Though my favorite panel in the entire book is when Cyclops is talking to Charles and Magneto, and he like kind of gets his mission orders. We see both of their reflections in his visor, which clearly has to be hinting at something, which I thought that was a very kind of cool touch. But all the stuff with like the future X-Men and current X-Men is fine. I just thought this was leaning very heavy into the kind of heavy charts that Hickman likes to do. And it kind of took me out of the book a little bit. I was like, all right, I get it. I don't need 15 charts. Was right. So, Dan, you have anything else to add?
No, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. It's just, I think it's one of the things where I just gotta keep reading to see if I can figure some of this stuff out. I mean, it's just, yeah, like you said, I mean, I haven't really read a lot of X-Men stuff in the grand scheme of things, so not a lot of recent stuff either, so it's not like, picking up somewhere left.
Well, he's kind of entirely ignoring all the recent stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, listen, he referred to the last kind of big stint as the lost decade. You can't help but think that he did that for a specific reason.
Jeez, I wonder how Rosenberg feels.
Wasn't his stuff that was referenced as the lost decade. It was all the Bendis stuff.
Oh, shoot. That sucks.
Well, there's a lot of stuff. Rosenberg, I don't know that he cares, because he was he was fanboying it up, inmate running the asylum and being a jobber. So it's whatever, and it's all ignored. It's whatever.
Yeah.
But that's X-Men. We will continue to cover this every single week for the next 8 weeks, and then there's going to be like 6 launch books.
Yeah, we'll get to the point where we get to launch books. I think what I've said is I'll read, I guess it's just X-Men, and then I'll probably check out, what's the one that's based in Europe?
No More Colors?
Excalibur?
Excalibur. That's the other one that intrigues me. But I guess New Mutants might play a big point in it because that's the other one that's also being written in part by Hickman, but I don't give a shit about the New Mutants, and neither does the movie studios, by the way, with news from this week. So I don't know if I'll read that one.
What are the other books that are coming out? X Factor, X Force, or
Fallen Angels, X Force.
Fallen Angels? Really?
Yeah. X-Men, New Mutants, Excalibur, Fallen Angels, Marauders, and I think that might be it. I don't know if I said X-Force, also X-Force.
Yeah, it's X Force.
Well, we'll cover that
when it gets closer.
and we'll close out the show now.
All right. So, last issue we have here for the week is Silver Surfer Black. Again, another fantastic cover.
You should all be released as posters.
Oh my god, yeah. Like having all these Trad Moore covers would be awesome on a poster for sure. I actually submitted it for my Cool Cover Friday, which did not win, but got 3 likes before the closing. So
No one knows what that is.
yeah, exactly. There's no cross referencing there. Anyway, so we open up to Silver Surfer, thinking about Shala Bal. How you say that name? I don't think it's ever been pronounced in a movie or whatever. But yeah, we get like good few scenes with him and her kind of on their home planet, and then talking about having a kid, and her being like, do we really want to bring a kid into all this madness, this darkness? And suddenly we get a giant like Silver Surfer figure that crashes into their planet, and I guess it's Null. I mean, I was totally expecting like Galactus to show up, but I mean, I'm assuming this is Null that crashed into into their planet and was spreading all this stuff.
I think it's just a nightmare sequence.
It is a nightmare.
Okay, so it's not actually a flashback. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, that's the way I took it.
Yeah,
I mean, it is a flashback to Galactus showing up, but his nightmare is recontextualizing it as himself infected by the Black.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, because that's what happened last issue with he barely escaped Null on that planet. So yeah, so pretty much the rest of this is Ego talking to Silver Surfer, telling him about his army. He's like, I can help you fix it. Let me, and Silver Surfer's like, how am I supposed to trust you? All this stuff, and Ego's like, I know who you are. I know your backstory. I know where you came from. I can help you. And all of a sudden, Ego picks up a meteorite that has struck the surface and is actually making its way into the core of Ego's planet. So the Silver Surfer is like, if you're gonna help me, I'm gonna try to go in there and try to pull it out. And Ego's like, bruh, like there's a lot of stuff in my planet. I don't know if you're gonna make it if you try going in there. And Silver Surfer's just like, hold my beer. So we get a cool few pages here of the Silver Surfer kind of creating like a drill out of his like. Is he creating a drill out of his surfer board? I guess.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. There's one double splash page here that shows him going through each section of the core, which was really awesome. I know we talked about that before we came on air here about it. And yeah, just a fantastic issue, just going through. And then, as he gets to the center, he finds that Galactus has actually implanted himself inside of Ego with the Lifebringer 1, which is like kind of like, I guess, like the cradle or whatever that Galactus will be like, created out of. So this series is just getting better for me. This is definitely my pick of the week, if I haven't already said it already on here. But yeah, this series, like, it's so good. I know I'm gonna read it all, during our podcast here, but I'm definitely gonna buy the trade when it comes out because this is just a really great series. I like it so much. So, what do you guys think?
I'll let Vince go first.
Yeah, pretty much the same. I mean, the art is insane, wild. Actually, this isn't a criticism, but it's so colorful and trippy that I feel that you really have to take a moment to figure out what the hell's going on certain pages. And you could definitely read that as a criticism, but it's not to me. It's just like it's dense, but in an artistic way, which is actually relatively rare in comics. Cates really gets the Stan Lee style, like tortured inner monologue of Silver Surfer, where he's a little like mopey and edgy, but he's also detached. I think Cates gets his voice really, really well. I'm not really sure. It's really cool, but I'm not really sure where this Galactus stuff comes from, because as far as I know, I thought he was still like in that Lifebringer, like Golden Galactus thing. And the Marvel Wiki says that he last appeared in Infinity Countdown, and I'm not certain what he was up to, but I don't think he like died or had to go into incubation or anything like that. So, we'll probably get more explanation next issue, I imagine. It was good.
Yeah, this is awesome and it's great, and I'm not gonna say really anything else on it just because we've praised every issue, and you get into that thing of like I expect it to be completely kind of mind blowing every time you look at it, with just how breathtakingly beautiful everything is. And that's not just be like, and I mean, when something's very, very good, there's not much you can add to it, kind of. That's kind of where I'm at with Immortal Hulk, and when I talk about that book on the show. But I would love to see Marvel like release like a poster book of this or something.
Oh my
Like
god, yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it would be as cool just because you wouldn't have the colors, but like an artist edition of this would be insane too. Like Tradmore is crazy with how great this is, but um, yeah, that closes out our show as far as the books we have. Um, this was almost my pick of the week. It probably should be my pick of the week, but I just enjoyed the banter in Spider-Man just a tad more than this. But this is all crazy and beautiful and wonderful.
All right, our retro book for next week, we are going to June 1977 from DC Comics, Detective Comics number 470. This is part of the Steve Englehart Strange Apparitions run, and it is a Walt Simonson drawn issue featuring Dr. Phosphorus.
Nice.
So it should be very interesting. I know Mike and I are fairly familiar with this era. Dan probably has no idea what we're talking
right now. Like, I'm excited.
Dan has no idea what we're talking about, but I imagine he's pretty excited. I know he's become more of a Batman fan very quickly recently.
Yep.
And it's going to be early Walt Simonson and a new villain, which we have actually seen in current issues. Dr. Phosphorus made some quick appearances in Detective Comics in that first arc as a kind of guest character quickly. But I'm excited to read that, and I'm sure we'll have lots of other cool comics to read. So thanks for watching this episode, and tune in next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.